Hi everyone again, thanks for joining. This last session I will try to make it a bit shorter. We ran out of schedule for like 15 minutes or maybe even half an hour. What time is it? Oh, basically we are on schedule for this one. Let's start with the homework before I forgot about it. So for the homework this time, you will have to come up with about 10 transactions for your own company. This can repeat the transactions which we did in the previous practice, but I advise you to come up with some new transactions. And those transactions should impact assets, liabilities, revenues, and expenses. You can come up with your own accounts and you can just be creative with that. Just come up with your own business and work on its transactions. On the next step, so while you will be working, and you will be working here in transaction list. Mine transaction list is a bit messy, but hopefully yours is in a better shape. I will fix mine later. After you come up with transactions, you need to make sure that your balance sheet balances. If you come up with a new transaction, with a new account which you don't have in your trial balance before that, you need to add it to your trial balance account. And if you have problem with it, come to any Q&A session. I will basically run 3 Q&A sessions after that lecture. Today in the evening, 9 p.m. It will probably be short Q&A, but whatever questions will be asked, I will try to answer all of them. Later in the week, on Wednesday, 9 p.m., it will be standard Q&A session on English, and Thursday, 9 p.m., it will be Russian Q&A in Russian language. For someone who has difficulty with English terminology, I will try to provide a quick summary of today's lectures in Russian, and I will answer questions in Russian if I get any. So for the homework, you do 5 transactions here, 10 transactions, but they should impact different accounts, revenues, expenses. You transfer the new accounts which you created to the trial balance, and you fix the formulas here until your trial balance balances. And when it balances, you create a balance sheet here. So you update your working file to have a working balance sheet which also balances. To do that, you can copy that part. You can copy that part to your working file, somewhat like I did here. Let's see. So trial balance balances here, but something else doesn't balance. So for Irene L, I kind of did part of the work, but it still does not balance. So I transferred the balance here, but it still does not balance. So she needs to figure out what doesn't balance. And then on the next, in a week, on a early session, we will go through individual accounts, and we will try to fix them all up to the balance sheet. You can also review MIT materials lecture 1, 2, and 3, depending on where you lack the knowledge. It's a good theoretical material, and it's a good talking point for your job interview, for the entry position, if you have one. If you were asked about your accounting education, you can mention that apart from getting some standard education or certificate, or if you have like non-accounting education, you can send that you went to Massachusetts Institute of Technology OpenCourseWare site and you study accounting based on MIT materials here, and you worked with me with a CPA, and we've been reviewing that material, and we've been constructing trial balance, balance sheet, income statement for the training purposes of that course. And of course, if you do the homework, if you contribute, if you make your working file at the end, it's not a problem for me to give you a certificate which will say all of that, which will mention what we covered in that course. I don't think you will be asked to show that certificate in the job interview, but just in case, you will have it. Okay, so that's about homework. I will put that instruction. You can see I put that instruction here. So do 5 transactions impacting each of assets, liabilities, revenues, up to 10 transactions total. Practice accounting equation until you feel that you are confident with it. Someone don't need to practice it. Someone might need to practice it. I personally didn't know about that exercise when I was studying, but it feels to me that it is a good exercise to learn that assets should equal equity plus liabilities, and that's why every transaction should have 2 legs, debit side and credit side. That way everything with balance. Then you do update your trial balance depending on the transactions you invented. You can just rewrite the existing transactions or rewrite the transactions from the earlier in the course, or just copy them with new amounts, or just copy them without changing. Everything will count until you can understand how the description of the transaction is its business substance is related to the accounts used in the transaction, and how that transaction will reflect on your trial balance, on your balance sheet, and on your income statement. Okay, and as a part of a practice, we will take a look at a few remaining materials in that lecture. So at the end of lecture 3 in MIT, they had some transactions. So Qmart buys 10,000 worth of cereals from Special Foods for cash. If you type fast enough, you can type if that is going to be an expense or not. Yes, if expense, no, if not an expense. Let's see, where is my file? Okay. No, that's someone else's file. For some reason, it didn't copy. Okay, cereals. For the sake of simplicity, let's say that cereals is also our merchandise. Okay, so we debit the merchandise, 10,000. As of today, I hope that you can recognize an inventory transaction. Whatever when you have an inventory impact, it will be an inventory transaction. And when you buy inventory, your inventory increase. And inventory is an asset. That's why it should be a debit to increase. And credit, we paid with cash. And we paid the same amount. Okay, so that will be our impact to from that transaction. Okay, that's an old one. Qmart sold 1/2 of the cereals for 8,000 cash. That transaction will be more complicated because it's basically two transactions. Okay, let's start with the cash part. It's usually the easier one. We got 8,000 cash, so it will be cash. I hope at this point you have no doubt when you see cash in the description and the amount, and from the task you understand whether it was outflow or inflow. You say, obviously, it's debit cash, 8,000. Whenever cash comes in, it's debit cash, and you just need to think where to put the credit. And because that was a sale of transaction, revenue transaction, sold. If you see sold, then we should have at least, most of the time we should have some revenue somewhere. So it will be revenue. But since we already divided our stuff by revenue products and revenue services, let's go to trial balance. Yeah, we have revenue products account here separately. We say that we got revenue from products of $8,000. But now let's remember the matching principles which we discussed in the previous lecture. When we generate revenue, we usually should have recognized the expenses related to generating that revenue. And in our case, we used half of the cereals which we bought earlier. So let's take out half of the cereals out of, let's say we have credit. So we are taking out cereals out of here, half of the cereals. So we credited inventory, but we only used half. So that would be $5,000. And now we need to debit it somewhere. And the question is, what account shall we use? And we can remember that earlier in the lectures and homework, we already used some inventory merchandise. And we can just look up what we used here. So we have cost of merchandise used for services, cost of merchandise sold. Yeah, and we can double check on trial balance account. Okay, we have cost of merchandise sold account here. So we book it to cost of merchandise sold. And we shouldn't forget about debiting that account. Let's see our check. Let me put it very long to like many lines. So this is my check. It shows that all my entries sum up to 0. These ones, I removed them out of the calculation. They are not showing up anywhere. And I did that for my trial balance to balance. Okay. Let's see if we have any other entries to do in the MAT lectures. Okay, that's all the same. It's a breakdown. Net income. So that's just some analytics of the income statement. Okay, so MAT material ran out of entries for us. So let's come up with some new entries. Let's say we sold sold 10,000 worth 10k worth of services, paying to subcontractor 5,000. Okay, so what do we have here? We sold 10,000 of services, let's say for cash, 5k cash. So it was some probably residential services like plumbing or lawn, roof replacing. So first of all, we see cash inflow, cash, debit, 10,000. That's the first thing I look into in the transaction. If it's cash, we start with the cash. It's always easy to understand. Debit, cash increases by debit. Credit. As we covered some time ago, we have revenue services here. And that revenue services will come up here and it will be credit. It will be credit. And let's see what we have on the expense side. We have credit cash, and that was 5,000. Since this is a credit, it's a negative. Debit, obviously, as you understand from all the previous exercises, we go to trial balance and we pick up the cost of. Okay, now it's interesting. We do not have the cost of subcontractors. So we need to create a new account. Let's go up here, insert one above. That would be cost of services account on the income statement, on the balance sheet. It should go to retained earnings. And here, let's call it cost of subcontractor services used in services. Account names are getting a bit lengthy. I wouldn't be afraid of that. That's just make our accounts more granular, and I will show you right now how that can impact the quality of our accounting. Let's see what we have in trial balance. Yeah, we need to copy the formula here. Let's see, our trial balance works 0. Our transaction lists works 0. And let's see what we have on the income statement. We have revenues and products. We have total revenue here of 29,000. We have cost of sales. And we have gross profit margin. We have good profitability. But what about lines of products? Let's see. For example, let's check here. So that's our profit on the products. And that's our profit on the services. And we can calculate a profit margin on our products and on our services. And we can see that our products are almost twice as profitable as our services. So that's why we are so granular in our expense accounting and so granular in our accounts. We still calculated that based off income statement. We use a template which we got from the Apple here, just as a reminder. And that's why, so I assume the owner of the business will be happy to know that his product business is much less profitable than his services business. Again, this is all imaginary company, but in the real world it works the same way. You always want to be able to measure the profitability of your different products or services or other offers, and you want to drill into even more details. However, let's assume now that we got that SG&A here, advertising expense. Let's assume that advertising expense was for our product services, for our products. So we got profitability of our products, and we add advertising expense, and we get 0. So basically, our product business was not profitable at all, because not only it generated pretty small gross profit, we also spent all that advertising here. Let's be more specific. Advertising of products expense, social media. It's all imaginary situation, but I'm showing you right now why accounting is important for the business. Why it is important to be granular in your transactions, and how it can impact the real business decisions. So that's the last exercise for today. Thank you all for coming. Please send your questions into the question file. Let me give you a link if I can find one. Okay, so here I have some links here. So here is a link to the question file. I will be more than happy to answer your questions. Next module, I will adjust it a bit because I see that it is just too exhausting to have more than 4 hours of education. I'm still good. My back hurts a bit, but I'm still good to continue. My wife is hungry a bit. She's spending time with 2 small kids, but otherwise than that I can continue, but you probably have your own commitments. So let's see each other today in the evening, 9 p.m. We will have a short Q&A session. You can come if you have any questions. I will do a quick review of today's material on that session. It's not obligatory to come, but if you think it can help you to have a quick review, at least this is one of the memorization technique, just a spaced repetition of the material. Come, we will see you. We will see each other on that meeting. So thank you for today. Have a great rest of the weekend. Bye bye.